Yeah, the inspiration for the piece came from stories of two friends of mine. They're both gay refugees from Syria. And their stories were really getting into my heart, and I was really trying to think, what do I do with all this information? One of them was actually quite young, 15, when he left Syria, and we met in Amsterdam. He was going through a lot of difficulties to find himself. And the other one, he told me all the story that he was going through and all the difficulties and all the horrific and horrible things that he saw during the war, if it's people that are, getting raped, getting killed, etc., etc. And everything that what we see on the social media, this friend of mine and also the other, they experienced that in different ways, going on a boat, crossing the water, walking, taking trains, trying to get into a safe place. The situation of being a refugee and gay is not really easy, especially if you're coming from a Muslim country, apparently. And when they came here to the Asylum Center in Holland, they were just molested and getting beat up all the time. And I was trying to implement these stories and individual experience towards what the dancers, the performers are going through, to really give them the opportunity to experience this idea of getting into a new place and being closed in one place that they don't know people and they're just locked in a way, like in this asylum center or something like that, in a new place, in a new country. And look, grab, lift your head up. Can you take it more out? So if you take it, take him, this, so you really take it out. So on. I developed a choreographic system called physical script, which means that each movement, we call it actually a physical word. It's not a movement, but for us something that has a very specific expression, just like a word. So actually everything that the dancers are doing, they must have a certain question or idea why they're doing what they're doing. Being very sure about the question that they're asking about the people around them, about themselves, about the different body parts, and how does it create some kind of a little bit of schizophrenic physicality towards them. It gives them a lot of naturalization to dig into their own soul instead of only following only what I'm telling them to do.
On one side we have the movement material made by Sagi. On the other hand, there's also a movement of emotions and thoughts that I'm working on with the dancers. For me, that is like the immaterial movement in the piece. What's happening between each other, what's happening in their own bubble in their head, and how that influenced the surface. For me, I was very touched by stories of the refugees that are just locked up in a place. And in general, the whole thing that you are on hold. If you are on hold for months or years or whatever, how do you deal with that? Because your life actually stops. It's like to be in a jail. You cannot move. You cannot move on with your life. And I was inspired by the book of Hannah Arendt, like The Human Condition. And she writes about the meaning in life exists by the interaction between people. Then they get triggered by thoughts, emotions, and things start to move.
10 years ago, in 2006, I left Lebanon during the war. So it was a difficult experience for me. I left with my sister. Yep. But and then I had to kind of rebuild a life in another place. So in a sense, this piece brings something inside of me. Specifically, I think it's more about LGBT refugees from Syria. And my experience was not nearly as difficult as their experience because my sexuality was not as problematic. The piece itself is a very emotional experience for me because, I mean, in many ways I relate to what's happening. I had to search very deep inside of myself to bring out these feelings that I felt before, that I maybe don't want to feel anymore. But I thought maybe this is a good chance to reach out to those feelings and to explore them and express them in a safe environment, in a I guess controlled environment, right? And it was difficult for me. There were days here where I was like, I can't. In my head, I was like, I can't do this, but you go home and you reflect and you meditate and you come back, try to come back stronger, and yeah.
Straight.
The thing is, I'm standing.
You stay straight.
It's so fine.
And then I was thinking about, wow, could I make that decision actually at all? Am I not like a sissy guy that just stays there with all the danger? Can I make that trip? Can I walk? Can I go with a boat?